She said she needed a taste tester. But the way she said it, soft, low, a smile hiding behind her words, made me forget she was talking about coffee. Her name was Marin. 46, maybe 47. The kind of woman who made you straighten up without realizing you'd done it. Not because she asked, but because her quiet had gravity. I just started helping out at her cafe on the corner of 3rd and Alder. Small place. Always smelled like roasted beans and rain-soaked wood. She ran it mostly alone. I was just supposed to lift the heavy sacks, mop, do runs to the supplier. But she noticed I had opinions about things. About flavor, balance, the way coffee could hit different moods. That morning, she was standing behind the counter, sleeves rolled to her elbows, the small gold chain on her wrist catching the morning light. Steam curled between us from the espresso machine, and I could smell cinnamon, almond, and something warmer, her perfume, faint but steady. "Try this," she said, sliding a cup across the counter. I took it, careful not to let my fingers brush hers. Didn't work. Her hand lingered a second too long, skin warm from the machine's heat. "It's different," I said. My voice cracked on different, like I'd forgotten how to talk. She tilted her head, studying me with eyes the color of burnt sugar. "Different good, or different bad?" "Good," I said quickly. "It's good." She smiled. Not big. Just enough for the right side of her mouth to lift. The kind of smile that makes you want to earn another. The cafe was empty except for us. Rain tapped against the glass. The light outside was gray, but inside, everything felt too warm, like the air had thickened. I took another sip just to have something to do with my hands. "You pay too much attention when you taste," she said, wiping the counter, not looking at me. "Most people just drink." "I like knowing why things work," I said. "Why something feels right." Her hand paused mid-wipe. The cloth hung there for a beat, then she set it down. "You talk like that about people too?" I wasn't sure if she was teasing or testing. "Sometimes," I said. She turned toward me fully then, body angled, hip against the counter. Close enough that I could see the faint line of freckles across her collarbone. Her eyes searched mine, and for a second it felt like she saw through everything, my clumsy politeness, the way I kept stealing glances at her hands, my pulse jumping every time she leaned near. She reached for the cup again, but I didn't let go right away. Her fingers brushed mine, once, light, then she pulled back, and the moment snapped. "Too strong?" she asked. I swallowed. "No. Just, unexpected." That got another small smile. Unexpected can be good. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full, like both of us were listening to something invisible in the air. Her breathing. Mine. The rain. Then, a bell. Sharp, breaking through it. The front door creaked open, cold air pushing in. Marin glanced up, and for the first time that morning, she looked almost startled, like whoever had walked in wasn't supposed to. Her hand brushed the counter once, as if steadying herself. "Hold that thought," she murmured. And just like that, the warmth between us cooled, the air shifting back to ordinary. But even as she moved away, I could still feel where her fingers had touched mine, faint, electric, impossible to forget. The man at the door turned out to be her supplier, older, loud, all confidence and casual jokes. He brought in boxes of beans, talked too much, didn't notice me standing there. But Marin did. She kept her tone light while she checked his invoice, though I saw her hand tremble once when she reached for a pen. Whatever had flashed in her eyes when he walked in faded fast, replaced by her usual calm. By the time he left, the cafe felt smaller again, quieter, but not the same kind of quiet as before. She leaned against the counter, exhaled. "You can take a break, if you want." I nodded, but I didn't move. She didn't either. We ended up sitting across from each other at the corner table by the window. Rain streaked the glass like someone had drawn lines to keep us in separate worlds. "You've worked here, how long now?" she asked. 3 weeks. She nodded, eyes on her cup. "Feels longer." There was a story in her tone, a tiredness wrapped in warmth. I wanted to ask what it meant, but she kept talking. "I used to have someone helping me before," she said. "Didn't work out." "Why not?" She gave a small, knowing smile. "People get attached to the idea of you, not who you really are." The words hit harder than she probably meant them to. I looked down at my hands, pretending to study the wood grain of the table. My reflection trembled faintly in the coffee's surface. "I'm not like that," I said, almost too fast. "I didn't say you were." Her voice softened on the last word, like she'd caught the sharp edge in mine. For a moment, she looked at me, really looked, and I wondered if she saw through the half-truth I'd just told. Because I was like that. Or becoming that. Watching how she brushed her hair back, the way she leaned closer when she spoke, how she smelled faintly of coffee and rain, I was collecting pieces of her without permission. Later, when I was cleaning up, she came behind the counter to help. The air was thick with the smell of espresso and soap. She reached past me for a towel, her arm brushing mine. "Not by accident." "Not exactly." "Sorry," she murmured. But she didn't move right away. Her hand rested lightly on my shoulder, just her fingers, warm through the thin fabric of my shirt. It could have been nothing. It wasn't. I turned slightly, and for a second our faces were close enough that I felt her breath, soft, quick, nervous in a way she never showed. "I should lock up," she said suddenly, pulling back. "Yeah," I said, voice quieter than I meant. She smiled without meeting my eyes. "You're good company, you know." Then she disappeared into the back room, leaving the air behind her charged, humming with everything we weren't saying. And for the first time, I didn't know if the danger was in what I felt, or what she might start feeling too. The next morning, I came in early. The street was still wet, the air sharp with cold. Through the front window, I saw her bent over a table, writing something in a small notebook. Her hair was loose, falling over her shoulders, and for a second, I forgot to breathe. When I pushed open the door, the bell startled her. She looked up, eyes wide before she masked it with a quick smile. "You're early," she said. "So are you." She closed the notebook quickly, slid it aside. "Habit. Can't sleep much lately." Neither could I. The cafe stayed quiet for hours, no customers, just the two of us moving around each other, too aware, too careful. She reached for the milk frother just as I set a mug down, and our hands met midair. Static. Real, sharp, alive. She pulled back, but not fast enough. "Sorry," I muttered. "Stop apologizing," she said softly, almost a whisper. Our eyes locked, the kind of look that drags seconds out until they feel like hours. She broke first. "Would you help me with the bags in the back?" Her voice wasn't steady. The storage room was dim, lit only by a single bulb that buzzed faintly. She lifted a crate, I reached to take it from her. Our hands touched again, longer this time, neither of us pretending it was accidental. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the box. She didn't let go. "Marin," I said, voice low. She looked up at me, and I could see it, the fear, the want, the battle she was losing against herself. "This isn't," she began, but her voice caught. "It doesn't have to be anything," I said. "Just, real." Her breath hitched. And then, the sound of the front bell. Loud. Too loud. We froze. "Don't move," she whispered, as if moving would make it true. But she stepped back, fast, brushing dust from her hands. "Go see who it is," she said, her voice suddenly businesslike. It was a friend of hers, a woman maybe her age, bright lipstick, loud laugh. You weren't answering my messages, she teased. Thought you'd vanished. I muttered a quick hello and retreated behind the counter. Through the half-open door, I could see Maren talking, smiling, pretending nothing had happened. But her eyes kept flicking toward me, short, guilty glances that said everything. When the woman finally left, the silence between us felt heavier than before. Maren came to stand beside me again, arms crossed, pretending to wipe the same spot on the counter. She thinks I'm lonely, she said quietly. Are you? She turned her head just slightly toward me. Aren't you? The question landed in the space between us like a dare. I didn't answer. Just stepped closer, close enough to feel her warmth, close enough that every breath we took felt shared. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. Mine to hers. Neither of us moved. The world outside kept going, traffic, voices, rain, but in that small cafe, everything else went still. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. The pull between us said more than lips ever could. And for the first time, she didn't step away. It started with silence again. The kind that isn't empty, the kind that builds pressure until something has to give. Maren was locking up early. Said the rain had scared off customers, but we both knew it wasn't about the weather. She moved slowly that night, wiping already clean tables, rearranging cups, pretending she didn't feel my eyes on her. Her hair was loose again, damp from the mist outside. A curl stuck to her cheek. When she brushed it away, her hand trembled. You're quiet, she said without looking up. So are you. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. That's dangerous, isn't it? When both people are quiet. She turned then, finally meeting my eyes. I couldn't tell who moved first, but suddenly we were standing too close, the small space between us thick with everything we hadn't said for days. I shouldn't be like this with you, she said, voice rough. Like what? Her laugh was soft, brittle. You're 23. I'm twice that and then some. So people talk. And her breath caught. I've already made enough mistakes I can't take back. There it was, the thing she always carried behind her eyes. Regret. It hung between us like smoke. I stepped closer anyway. I don't care what people think. You should. I can't. She let out a shaky breath. Don't do that. Do what? Look at me like you mean it. I didn't answer. Just lifted a hand and brushed that same loose curl from her cheek, slow enough that she could have stopped me. She didn't. Her skin was warm, softer than I'd imagined. Her eyes closed for half a second, long enough to make my chest ache. I think about you, I said quietly. More than I should. Her eyes opened again, glassy and uncertain. You don't even know me. I do. No, she whispered, shaking her head. You see what you want to see. The woman who flirts when she shouldn't. Who misses something she never had. Maren, she cut me off, stepping closer, her hand flat against my chest. You make me forget how old I am. Her confession landed like a spark. I caught her wrist gently, holding her there. I don't see your age, I said. I see you. Something broke in her then, not loud, just visible in the way her shoulders loosened, the way her eyes searched mine like she was trying to memorize something she knew she shouldn't. She leaned in, slow, unsure. The smell of coffee and rain wrapped around us. Her lips were inches from mine, so close I could feel her breath trembling against my mouth. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. Once. Twice. A name flashing on the screen. She froze. She started, but didn't finish. Her hand lingered against my chest, heartbeat to heartbeat. We stayed there, breathing the same air, both knowing we'd already crossed the line, even if no one had seen it happen. She didn't come in the next morning. The cafe lights stayed off until afternoon, and when she finally appeared, her eyes were red around the edges. No makeup. No smile. Rough night? I asked carefully. Something like that, she said, setting her bag down behind the counter. Her voice sounded smaller, stretched thin. I didn't push. But something in the air felt different, sharp, brittle, waiting to crack. She tried to go through the motions, checking stock, cleaning, making coffee she didn't drink. I watched her drop a spoon, then another, her hands unsteady. Finally, she said, without looking at me, "Do you know who called last night?" I shook my head. My ex-husband. The word hit the air hard. She kept her eyes on the counter. He's been gone 3 years. And yet, somehow, he still manages to make me feel small. I didn't know what to say. She wasn't asking for comfort, not really. He wants to sell the building, she continued. This cafe. Says I'm better off moving on. Her throat tightened on the last word. Marin, she turned to face me then, eyes shining with a tired defiance. I told him I wasn't alone here. The words landed strange. I frowned. You mean, I said I wasn't alone, she repeated, quieter now. That someone was helping me. Someone who cared. I didn't breathe. You told him about me? Not exactly. A bitter smile. But he guessed. The next part came in pieces. Her ex had stopped by earlier, before I arrived. He'd seen us through the window a few nights back, closing up. He'd asked questions. She'd deflected. But he knew enough to make it sound ugly. So he thinks, yes, she said, cutting me off. He thinks I'm sleeping with you. Her hands were gripping the edge of the counter now, knuckles pale. He said I've lost my judgment. That I'm embarrassing myself. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. You didn't do anything wrong. Her laugh was hollow. Didn't I? Marin. When she looked at me again, her eyes were wet. Angry. Frightened. Wanting. You don't get it. I let him be right. I told myself it was harmless, the looks, the touches. But he saw what I wouldn't admit. I reached out, hesitated, then touched her wrist. Her pulse jumped beneath my thumb. What did he see? I asked. She looked up at me, eyes raw, voice trembling. That I want you. Silence. Neither of us moved. The world outside the windows blurred in rain, but inside, everything sharpened, the scent of her skin, the sound of her breathing, the warmth radiating between us. I didn't say anything. I just stepped closer until there was nowhere left to go. She didn't back away this time. Didn't try to. Her voice was barely there when she whispered, if I don't stop this now, I won't stop at all. And still, she didn't move. The rain hadn't stopped all day. It came down in sheets against the windows, turning the street outside into a blur of gray and light. Inside, it was just us, the cafe closed early, the door locked. The air smelled of wet pavement and coffee grounds, and something else I couldn't name. Marin was sitting at the table near the window, the one where we'd first talked. Her hair was damp again, curling around her face. She looked tired, beautiful, real. I stood across from her, unsure what I was waiting for. You could still leave, she said quietly. Do you want me to? Her eyes lifted to mine. That's not the same question. She sighed, rubbing her thumb along the rim of her cup. You're young. You still believe everything new can be good. You don't see what comes after. I took a slow step toward her. Then show me. She let out a sound, half laugh, half breath. You don't know what you're asking. Yeah, I said. I do. She stood then, slow, like it took effort. We were close enough now that I could feel the warmth from her skin, see the pulse in her throat. Her hand lifted, hesitant, and she brushed a drop of rain from my jaw. Her fingers lingered there, tracing down just enough to make my heart pound. "This isn't fair to you," she whispered. "Don't decide that for me." Her breath caught. "If I let this happen, I won't forgive myself." "And if you don't?" She looked at me for a long moment, a dozen emotions flickering in her eyes: want, fear, regret, something like surrender. Then she stepped closer. Our chests nearly touched. Her voice barely made it out. "I'm so tired of pretending I don't feel this." That was the breaking point. I didn't reach for her, she did. Her hands came up to my collar, holding, not pulling. Just holding. Her forehead rested against mine, eyes closed, both of us breathing the same unsteady rhythm. Everything slowed, the rain, the hum of the lights, even time. "This will change everything," she whispered. "I know." Her lips brushed mine, not a kiss, not yet. Just the faintest tremor of what it could be. Her breath tasted like coffee and something fragile, something real. Then she pulled back, eyes wet, voice shaking. "If we start, I won't stop." I met her gaze. "Then don't." For a second, it felt like the world tilted, like gravity had chosen sides. She looked at me, then down, then back again. And finally, she smiled, a quiet, broken, impossible smile. "You really don't make this easy," she said. "Neither do you." She exhaled, long and shaky, then reached for my hand. No more words. Just that, her fingers sliding into mine, slow and certain. And in that silence, we both understood, whatever came next, it wouldn't be half felt, half lived, or half true anymore. The morning after, the world looked softer somehow. The rain had stopped. The light that slipped through the cafe windows was pale gold, the kind that makes dust look like snow. Marin was already there, sitting by the window again, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. Her hair was pulled back this time, but a few strands had escaped, brushing her cheek. When she saw me come in, her expression flickered, relief, nerves, something between the two. "You came back," she said. "I said I would." She nodded, her lips twitching like she didn't trust her smile yet. I wasn't sure. I set down my bag, stepped closer. "Were you hoping I wouldn't?" She laughed quietly. "Maybe for the first 5 minutes. Then I realized I was just waiting." We didn't talk much after that. The cafe was empty, quiet except for the faint hum of the espresso machine. The kind of morning that felt private. She poured me a cup, slid it across the counter, just like the first day. Our fingers brushed again, familiar now, not electric this time, but grounding. "About last night," she began. "I know," I said. "You don't have to explain." But she shook her head. "No, I do. Not to make excuses, I just," her voice wavered. "I want this to mean something real. Not a mistake. Not a reaction." I took a breath, stepped around the counter until we were side by side. "Then don't call it one." She looked at me, steady this time, no masks left. "I spent years being careful," she said. "Too careful. I thought playing safe would keep me from hurting anyone." She exhaled. "But I think I was just avoiding feeling alive." Her words hit deep. I reached out, brushing my thumb along her hand where it rested on the counter. She didn't pull away. "I'm not trying to save you, Marin," I said. "I just want to be where you are." Her fingers turned, lacing through mine. "Then stay." We stayed like that for a long while, standing close enough that silence said everything. The morning light climbed higher, catching in her hair, painting her in soft gold. When she finally moved, it wasn't to step back. She leaned forward instead, slow, unhurried, and pressed her forehead against mine. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect. It was real. Her voice came quiet, almost a whisper. You taste like coffee. I smiled. So do you. We both laughed, the tension that had followed us for weeks finally breaking into something easy, something warm. Outside, the street was waking up, cars, footsteps, sunlight spreading over the wet pavement. Inside, the cafe smelled of everything it always had, coffee, sugar, something new beginning. Marin squeezed my hand once, like she was saying don't go anywhere. And I didn't. Not that morning. Not after everything we'd said, and everything we hadn't needed to. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?